This is Channel 2 News, coverage you can count on.
There's an old saying in fisheries management, you can't manage fish without water.
And take a look here. Thousands of fish are dead, scattered around Washoe Lake after much of the lake dried up. What wildlife officials are saying about it in our Channel 2 News Big Story at 5:30. Pretty gruesome video. Experts say Washoe Lake has been receding rapidly in the past few weeks. Good evening, I'm Kristen Remington.
And I'm Wendy DeMonte. Thanks for joining us tonight. That, of course, is because simply there's no water running into it. Well, Paul Nelson headed out to Washoe Valley and shows us just how bad the situation is.
3 years of droughts taking its toll on Washoe Lake. As you can see, the water is a couple hundred yards away from where it used to be, and that's leaving behind nothing but a muddy mess and thousands of dead fish.
This kind of thing happens periodically at Washoe Lake, unfortunately all too often in the past couple of decades.
These fish line the old shoreline for hundreds of yards down the east side of the lake. Almost all of them are carp, and Healy says if they're dying, you know it's a bad situation.
They can really survive some difficult problems with water, low oxygen levels, very little water to survive in. But in this case, no water means no survival.
Healy says in the early 1900s, this lake would go dry about once every 20 years. But it's much more common now, since the area has been in a dry period for more than 2 decades.
In the last 20 plus years, there's 4 or 5 instances of these kinds of things happening with a lack of water at Washoe Lake.
This is a much different scenario than we saw at the Sparks Marina last year. Thousands of fish washed up on the shore there because of cold water temperatures and lack of wind.
Caused what was called a violent turnover. So essentially, if there's no oxygen in the water, that means no oxygen and the fish all pass away.
Washoe Lake only gets up to 6 to 8 feet during a wet year, and the Nevada Department of Wildlife doesn't stock fish here because there's potential for the lake to dry up.
We're hoping we get into an extended wet period, and the day will come when we can rebuild that modest fishery at Washoe Lake.
Meanwhile, these fish have been a source of food for other animals. Tracks can be found along the mud, and some fish have been partially eaten.
You're going to see raccoons out there, you're going to see coyotes, you're going to see a lot of birds out there that will actually clean up this mess.
The Department of Wildlife says they don't have any plans to remove these fish. Instead, they say they'll leave them here and let nature take care of the problem. Covering the story, Paul Nelson, Channel 2 News.